Your voice is breaking, sir.
Uh, is it fine now?
Now it's fine. It's still.
Okay. Okay. So the agenda for today would be the AR module. So we will try to complete the setup, and
Okay.
maybe we will see what are the setups that involved to do the transaction in AR module.
Okay.
And we will try to create an invoice, and we will try to create a normal invoice, foreign currency invoice,
Okay.
and we will try to create the credit memos and try to see the outstanding of this particular customer. And we also see how to create customer and all those things in Fusion application. And we will create receipt, and we will try to close the particular invoice. So where we will try to do a partial closure and the full closure. So this is the plan for today. So I'm just sharing the setup parts of what we will do. So these are the setups basically we will do today. And part of this module, basically we will just a minute.
I wanted to just understand, and you even mentioned in the video saying that there is a common reference data set, and we have our own reference data set.
Yes.
Is that am I correct? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
And
Okay.
yeah, so this one I wanted to
Okay.
clarify. Yeah.
So basically, what is reference data set? The reference data set is something that is used to classify specific setup into a particular bucket, so that I can use this setup across the business unit. Wherever I wanted to assign, I can use it. So here we have two parts. One is common data reference set, and the other is specific to particular BU or particular LU specific reference data set. So common reference data set is given by Oracle, where we can use as it is. We don't need to do any configuration or any changes. We can use it. So common data reference set will be attached with most of the setup. So if we are going with the common data reference set, so we don't need to create the setup like the payment terms and all those things. We don't need to create it. It will be already attached with this common data reference set. So this is the advantage of using the common data reference set. So why do we need a specific BU specific data reference set? Is that it will help us to restrict the setup to a particular business unit. So for a practice purpose, maybe we can use this common data reference set, or for few business cases, maybe we can use it. But as a standard practice, we will go for the BU specific or LE specific reference data set. So this is the basic classification. It will allow us to classify our group a particular setup and use it for the different views. So this is why we are using this reference data set. So this is the classification basically.
Hmm. And sir, you even attach reference data set while creating the business unit. That is a
Yes.
basic step that you do. But even again, during the AP setup, I mean, for the
Yes.
payment terms also, you attach the reference data.
Yes.
So for every setup, we have to keep attaching the reference data set, or is it a default, which is when you create the business unit, when you attach the reference set at that time, it is like a default to all the other modules? Or you have to separately attach it when you set up a new module?
Yeah. So if we are going business unit specific, we will have to attach for each setup. So the reason is that so this will basically help us to restrict at business unit level. So that if I attach for this particular business unit, then I will not be able to use it for the other business unit. So that is the purpose of this. So that is
Okay.
why we are attaching at every level.
Okay, so fine. And sir, one more doubt was in
Yeah,
this offset segments
yeah,
where you had not enabled it. You had clicked it on none. But
yeah,
you said in case if you enable it, it nullifies the balances. You gave an example for the expense.
yes,
Yeah, so in the real scenario, suppose if you don't enable that, will the balances not mismatch when you generate the reports at
Yeah,
the end of the
system
period?
will, I mean, so basically, let's say we take an, what do you call, the balancing segment value 1 and segment value 2. So we are doing the intercompany transaction between these two. So what this offset will do is that it will take this offset for the balancing segment and it will automatically create the segment 2 against the segment 1. Whereas if we don't enable this particular option, system will use based on the setup what we have given. So it will not offset automatically. So that is the reason we are using it. So basically, the reason we didn't use it is that we don't want system to automatically create or assign the value set. So that is why we gave it as no.
Okay, so this is usually a general norm followed by companies. I mean, when you are implementing this.
This is not general norm. Basically, it is client specific. So some
Okay.
clients will need it, and some client will prefer to not to enable this option.
So could you give an example of people who actually enable this? Um, which sector, which business sector
So
usually
maybe we
enable this?
can say the kind of on. So I can say this model where we have a centralized payment. So the centralized payment in the sense, let's say we have 40 different or maybe 100 different offices. So out of this 100 different offices, we classify this into branch offices, zonal offices, and head offices. So head office is always one, and we have maybe 10 zonal offices, and the remaining are branch offices. So where branch offices will create only the invoices, they don't have any privileges to make the payment. So for the payment, they will have to send the request to the zonal offices or the head offices, whichever is relevant. So let's take to our case, it is only the zonal offices which will make this payment, and the zonal officers will report to the respective head office. So on this case, what usually we will do is that the liability will be transferred to the zonal officers. So how are we transferring this liability to the zonal officers? So basically, while creating the expense, we will say that instead of office one, that is the branch office, we will say office two. This is zonal office. So the liability will be transferred to zonal offices. So when they are making the payment, the liability will be getting knocked off with the cash clearing account. So this you can use here. You can use this offset, and we can use this automate, and we can knock off for this offset. So this is the purpose. So we can use mostly for the centralized payment business case scenarios.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other doubts?
Sir, I was actually going through the interview questions of Fusion. They had mentioned something about Oracle Mediator. What is it, sir? I mean, what's the concept of that?
Mediator in the sense, I mean, we have middleware and we have UCM. I mean, if you can give me the exact thing what
They
you.
they just mentioned what is Oracle Mediator. That was one of the questions. I'll just go through that and I'll just copy that and send it to you, sir, on WhatsApp. Maybe
Yeah, yeah, that
tomorrow
will.
you can explain that. Yes, sir.
Yeah,
That's it, sir. I can carry forward. Thank you.
yeah. Okay, fine. So shall we start?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So I think we have seen the setups and I mean today's agenda. So let's start with the setup part. So navigating to setup and maintenance, and let me try to get the project what we created on the earlier session. So this is the first setup that we will have to do in receivable module. So that is receivable system options. So I think we have it already. I'll explain it how it works. Okay, let me create one. I think we have done the setup. Let me query once. Okay, so this is our view. Okay, so the moment we search with our business unit, we will get this. So the first thing what we will have to do is that attach this business unit. So the moment we attach the business unit, automatically the ledger and ledger currency will be populated automatically. And then we have the auto cash rule set. So the auto cash rule set is something that when we are applying this particular transaction or the invoice with the receipt, how do we want to apply this or clear the dues that is pending with us? I mean, pending by customer. So here you can see this will be the first option that what we are seeing is that clear past due invoices. So this will basically clear the past dues. This is based on the historical transaction where whatever is the the past one it will clear. So let's say we have three invoices. One is maybe 10th of January, 5th of January, and 1st of January. So this will clear starting from 1st of January. And then we have clear the account, which means clear the account, then apply the oldest first. So it will again clear the oldest and it will close the particular accounts. And then we have invoice match. So this will basically match with the invoice and whichever the invoice we are matching, it will clear the particular invoice at a whole. And this is like oldest transaction first. So you can see here oldest invoice and the credit first. So this is also again the oldest part of invoice will be cleared. So this is what about auto cache rule set, and then we have auto match rule set. So basically, auto match rule set is to define that how do we want to match. So this is to automate it. So let's say we are creating the receipts through automate. So basically, we have a concept called lockbots. So lockbots is something that a commercial bank is given to a privileged customer in order to automate their receipt application for the AL module specifically. So what it will do is like a file will be generated in bank side and bank will send us the file, CSV file basically, and we will load this in a particular the SFTP folder, and from there we will import it, and based on this file we will create the receipt and apply the receipt automatically. So for that we will need the auto match rule set. Unless we have this rule, we will not be able to. I mean, system will basically give invalidation. So this is what auto match rule set. And then we have we auto apply a receipt. So if we wanted to reduce the human effort, maybe if system wanted to apply it automatically, then we can set a limit for it. So that system will automatically progress and do it. So for that again we will need the rule set to do that. So we can have this use auto apply. So if we use auto apply, then we will have to give the days, and then
So
we have
restrict, sorry, sir. Restrict the limit meaning, sir. I didn't get that, sir. Uh, I mean, days
restrict.
to auto apply. You just mentioned to restrict some limit. You mentioned, sir. I couldn't get that.
No, restrict to, I mean, limit in the sense I'm just saying to limit the human efforts that if we wanted to automate this process, we can use this setup. So that is two things. One is automate rule set. So what automate rule set will do is that basically it will set a matching rule in order to match with the invoice and the receipt. So basically while we are importing the receipts through this logbots. So basically, this rule will set the receipt and the invoice, and it will match and it will apply. So again, from here we have another option: days to auto apply a receipt. So we have imported the receipt. If we don't want to use or give a manual intervention, then we can give a limit for this. Limit in the sense on how many days should this apply on a particular receipt.
Okay, sir.
2 days, 3 days, 4 days.
Hmm.
So this is what I was referring.
Okay.
Okay. And then we have write-up. So write-up is something we if we wanted to reduce the balance from customer use. So let's say we have so mostly write-up will be used for the decimal points. I mean the precision basically. So the customer due is something that maybe 1000.50. So we will use this write-off to take off this 0.50 and similar things. So as a business scenario, we will use mostly write-off for this kind of the decimal points. And apart from that, we can use this write-off for the normal write-off also. But whereas we have another concept called chargeback as well, so that we will discuss it later point of time. But basically, write-off will reduce the customer payables. Okay. So again, here we have a limit. So the limit is something that from which amount to which amount I can use this write-up. So if I give maybe 1 rupee to 10,000, so below 1 rupee I will not be able to write off. About 10,000 I will not be able to write off. Okay. And then we have refund. So refund is something that we wanted to return back customer the dues. Maybe the item is damaged or due to some other reason we wanted to refund the amount to the customer, then we will set the minimum amount. So below this amount we will not be able to process the refund. And then we have chargeback. So what is chargeback? So chargeback is something that we wanted to close the existing receipt and we wanted to open a new invoice or the new bill for this particular purpose. So let's say I purchase an item on 1st of January, and today it is maybe 30th of March, and I say that let's close this bill and let's open a new bill for this. I'll start a new purchase. So on those kind of scenario, what we will do is we will create an chargeback against this particular receipt, whatever is pending. And again, we will match this chargeback for creating a new invoice. So this is what we call chargeback. So to make this chargeback due, how do we want to make it? Whether it is enter date or open invoice due date or the receipt date, or if you wanted to use the deposit date. So mostly we will use either the open invoice due date or the enter date. Okay.
Okay, sir.
And then we have application exemption rule. So this is like exemption if you want to have anything exempted for applying this receipt application, that maybe we can use it here. And again, the right of exemption and so these are all kind of an exemption part basically. And then
But these are all not mandatory, no, sir?
no, not mandatory. This is optional. So
Okay.
exception will be always a non-mandatory thing.
Okay.
Okay. So then we have the realized gain. I mean, basically the accounting part of it. So this involves the currency. So realized gain and realized loss will be calculated based on the foreign currency value and this thing. So it will calculate us whether it is gain or loss. So here we have two things. One is realized gain and the other is unrealized gain. So unrealized gain is something that we have created only invoices. So that we call unrealized gain. Oh, maybe gain or loss, whatever. And then we have realized gain. Realized gain is something after we receive the amount or create the receipt application. So that we call realized gain. So we are giving the realized gain account, gain or loss. And then we have the cross currency rate type. So as a default, I have selected corporate. So if we wanted to use different types, we can use it always. So if you see here, we have defined it. And apart from that, if we wanted to use the user specific, we can enter it and we can do this. And apart from that, as a standard thing, we have the corporate. So corporate where we will define the rate against each currency. Based on that, system will calculate the conversion. And then we have cross currency rounding off. That is again the precision limit. If we have it, the difference will be calculated here in the cross currency rounding account. So this will basically round off the currency values. Okay. And then we have the automatic reset. So this is what I was explaining on the above setup which we are trying to do. So that is lockbots. So if we wanted to create the receipts automatically, so how do we wanted to do? So whether as a default, I have given one. I mean for both invoice and receipt. If we wanted to commit more than one, we can give it. So that depends on our performance as well. So we have to make sure that how are we deciding on our infrastructure setups also. So which is the RAM and the storage and all those things. So based on that, we can give the invoice per commit.
So what's the threshold amount, sir? Could you give
That's
an
what
example for
coming
that?
to that.
Okay,
So,
okay.
so we have another thing called receipt confirmation threshold amount. So we are now importing this particular receipt. So what is the limit for this receipt that we wanted to import in a batch? So if we want to give a particular limit, then we can give it here on the receipt confirmation threshold amount. So where above this limit, we will not be able to do it. So this is again for the purpose of performance tuning. Fine. Okay. Then we have bills receivable. So bills receivable is something again. This is kind of an instrument where we will pay it at a later point of time, and this will follow kind of an balance forwarding cycle. So if we wanted to enable this, I mean, basically, I haven't seen a client using bills receivable. This is used very rarely. So I'm just explaining theoretically. So what is bills receivable and why do we use this? So if you wanted to use the bills receivable, we should enable it here, and then we will have to create a transaction source and the transaction type. So where we will attach the transaction type to the transaction source, and that transaction source should be attached here. So I will show you one while we are creating the transaction type and the transaction source in the system. So what are the different methods? So at a high level, bills receivable is something like an the payment instrument where we can pay at a later point of time.
Sir, this auto cash rules that you told, no?
Yeah. Yes.
Sir, I give an example. You tell me,
Okay.
suppose if I have 5 invoices,
Okay.
For example, 2000 invoice number 1, invoice
Okay.
number 2 3000,
Okay.
invoice number 3 4000,
Okay.
invoice number 4 1000, invoice
Okay.
number 5 6000.
Okay.
But the customer has not mentioned the invoices. He has
Okay.
paid around 10,000.
Okay.
He has not mentioned the invoice. Which
Okay.
rule should be applied, sir?
No, this is based on date. So the invoice 1, 2, 3, what you are saying is, let's say the invoice one which you are referring is on 1st of January,
Uh,
and 2 is on maybe 10th of January,
uh,
then 3 is on maybe 12th of January, and then
okay.
subsequently 15, 18.
Uh,
So for this kind of cases, if let's say I'm selecting clear past use invoices, so which means apply past due invoices first. So system, let's say his total due is 1 lakh. So he
okay.
has given 10,000. So the 10,000 which applies for the invoice number 1, which is
Okay.
on the 1st of January. The system will apply only the one invoice that is made on 1st of January.
Okay.
Yeah, fine.
Sir, sorry, sir.
Okay.
Even if
So,
you, sorry, sir. Even
tell
if
me.
you select the oldest, sir, could you please, yeah, the oldest transaction first, that
Yeah.
also will do the same thing, no, sir? I mean, when you click on the purpose of clear past due invoices and the oldest transaction first, also it's
Yeah, it
more or
is
less the
mostly
same.
similar. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay, sir.
This invoice match is there, no? Invoice match.
Yeah, yes.
Invoice
Here,
match means here, sir. In the
this
auto
one.
cash rules.
Yeah.
Invoice match.
Yeah, invoice match. Yeah, yes,
If
yes.
the customer has informed the invoice number, accordingly it is matched, or not by number, it is by date only.
No, I mean, this is against this option we can say directly on a particular invoice. So we don't
Okay,
need to mention this particular date or this particular number. See, I have I have already 10 invoices pending since
okay.
January. But today I'm
Oh,
paying an invoice. So customer comes and says that whatever I'm purchasing today, I'll pay it to you. Maybe
okay,
in another 1 week, I'll pay you the remaining amount. So what we will do is that we will use this option, and we will match as
okay.
on today. So only today's invoice will be cleared. So that is what we are saying in this option. So this is always against a particular invoice, but not on the past due or
That is why this only I am asking, sir. Display
yeah.
match receipt to invoice. Correct now, sir?
Yes, correct.
Oh, that is invoice to invoice matching.
Yes, correct.
Okay, okay.
Yeah. Any other doubts?
No, sir. No, sir.
No, sir.
Shall we move?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Uh, okay. So we have created the system option. So the next setup is that transaction type. Okay. So if you see here, we have the transaction type set. This is nothing but our reference data set. So this is what I was referring, that we can use or restrict this particular setup only for the given RDS or the reference data set. Okay. And
Okay.
then we are attaching, sorry.
No, sorry, sir.
Okay.
I just said okay. I'm so sorry I disturbed in between. Yeah.
Okay. Then we have the legal entity that we will assign to this particular transaction type. And then we will just give a name for this transaction type. I have just given HW transaction 1, and then we have a transaction class. So this is what I was referring when we are discussing about the bills receivable. So what we will have to do is we will have to click this bills receivable, and we will have to give the respective accounts to this bills receivable, and we will create a transaction source and attach there to allow us to do the bills receivable transaction. So if you see here, we have another classification like debit memo, credit memo, and chargeback. So we will try to create one credit memo maybe, and apart from that, I'll just explain what it is and this thing. So we have options here. So basically, if we want to close this particular transaction time, we can click closed, and we can save this particular transaction so that it will become inactive. And then we have open. So open is something, it will be active and available to use for any kind of transaction. And then we have pending. So pending is something we can create it, and maybe when we wanted to have it used it, then we will change the status to open. And void is something for now we wanted to restrict this particular transaction type. Maybe at the later point of time we will use it. But always it is suggested to have it open. And then the start date and the end date. And we have the signs. The sign is like the amount which we enter should be in positive or negative. So by mistake, if maybe we give positive, and if you wanted to give a negative value, system will not allow us to enter it since this setup is being done for the positive value. And if you wanted the system to allow any values, we can give any sign. So since this is the invoice, I'm just giving positive. And we have generate bill. So do we want to generate bill? It is like an printed copy of it. So do we wanted system to generate this, or we wanted to restrict this particular functionality? So I have given as yes.
Excuse me,
And
sir.
then
Arun, sir.
yeah, yes,
Sir, this generate bill you told, no?
yeah.
Can you give an example, sir? I can't able to understand. Generate
Uh,
bill means what, sir?
So it is nothing like the if we create a particular bill in the system, we will take a printout of it. So do we?
Printout of that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, basically Oracle as a standard format where automatically the screen or the page will be printed out
Okay.
without logos or anything, just a form. So if we wanted to customize this form, again we can customize this.
Okay.
Okay. Then we have the credit memo type. So to attach the credit memo here, again we will have to create a transaction with the transaction class as credit memo. Then we will have to attach it here with the credit memo type. And then we have the application rule set. So the application rule set is something that how do we want to apply the receipt. Uh, so we have the line level, we have the line first and the tax after, or we wanted to apply pro rate. So let me explain each type. So if we choose line and tax pro rate, so let's say we have one line or two line, and then we have tax, maybe three lines. So what system will do is that system will apply first the line one and line two. Then for the three tax line, system will prorate. Prorate in the sense it will distribute equally. So this is the option for the to distribute the tax, but the line will not be distributed where it will apply first the line. Then the second option is line first and tax after. So this will not prorate anything, but it will apply the lines first. So after that, it will apply for the taxes. And then we have prorate all. Prorate all is something it will distribute to across all the lines. So this is what application rule set.
So,
And
which is the payment term that is usually selected, sir, in the real scenario?
in real time scenario, it again depends on the business case scenario. See, if we are taking let's say a supermarket, so it will be always immediate. Let's say we are taking a manufacturing industry, so it will be at least a 30 days of limit, because it will not be made immediately. Definitely we will have a time limit. So it depends on the industry we are working with. So mostly for a retail shop or a supermarket, we will have the immediate terms to be recognized, and maybe for the project or the construction or the manufacturing industry, we will have the payment terms specifically depend for it. So mostly as an industry practice, we will use 30 days net.
Okay. And in the application rule set, sir, which is the one that usually people, I mean,
So in
companies select?
application rule set, as a this thing, we will use this one line first and tax after.
Tax out. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, in case of payment terms,
yeah,
uh, uh, see, in case if I want to give a customer 7 days credit, okay,
okay,
if he is a local customer, and
okay,
if it is an outstation, if I want to give it 21 days, like
okay.
that I can make it, no?
Yeah, you can make any days. Yeah, that we can make.
We can add in the payment terms, sir.
Yeah,
This is
yes.
seeded, no?
Yeah, these are all seeders. You can see it here. This is common set
Set,
actually.
we
So
can
this is,
add,
yeah, yeah, yes, yes. We can add anything.
we can add our own payment terms, sir.
Yes, correct. We can add. So this is similar to our payable setups. What we were doing in
Okay,
the
okay,
payable. So where we can define our own rules, whether it should be recognized immediately or it should be recognized in 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, 90 days. Because if
okay,
you see construction projects and this kind of business, how it will work is that at least 3 months of credit limit period will be there. So
okay,
for those cases, we cannot use the same common set, that is net 30 or this thing. So you can see it here 30, 60, 90. So this will apply. And if you have a special case where customer use maybe 15 days, so that again you can define it. So that we can do it. In payment terms, we can define that.
payment terms we will set it in the customer, no?
Yeah, we can attach to a customer also, or if you
uh,
wanted to attach to a particular transaction, we can do it.
we can do it. Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Suppose if I set the payment terms in the customer,
Mm,
okay,
mm.
uh, I can change it in the invoice, no? At the time of invoice.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
I mean,
oh,
change in the sense if you have multiple, we can change it. So that is again on the business unit level access. So
okay,
the
okay.
payment term what we are creating is we
Ah,
create it and we attach the reference data set.
okay, okay.
And if this reference data set is attached to a business unit where we will
Ah,
have the access, then we can change it. If you have
acha.
multiple the payment terms created for it for the
Okay,
given business unit.
we can change.
Yeah,
Oh,
yes, we can change.
okay,
So that is
okay,
always allowed. We can change it.
okay.
Okay. So then we have the open receivables. So do we wanted to maintain the open receivable? The receivable is nothing but the outstanding that customer owes to us. And then we have freight. If you wanted to allow freight, maybe we can enable this option so that we can update the freight also in the line items. And then we have post to GL. So this should be enabled to allow us to post the particular invoice to the general ledger. And then we have the default tax classification code. So default tax classification code will be applicable when we have the Fusion tax module implemented. So for most of the countries will use the tax part, I mean the tax classification codes. But also there are few countries where we will not use the taxation part. If you take India and Singapore kind of countries where we will, and also the US, we will have most of the taxation parts involved in it. So where we will use this default classification code. Or if you wanted to enable this at a customer level, we can leave it here and we can enable at the customer level. And there are also few countries like Middle East, like Saudi and UAE. We don't have much taxation. So for those kind of countries, we will not implement this taxation. The only thing is, recently they have implemented the VAT. So that is
GST.
again one rate that we have it across the transactions.
So that is you are telling GST, no, sir?
No, this is not GST. So GST, what we have is that for India.
For India. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but this is for UAE and Saudi. Basically, I'm
Okay.
speaking about the Middle East where we don't have
Oh,
taxation. India, we have a complex tax actually. We have a lot of tax involved in it.
okay,
But if you take UAE, they didn't have any taxation. Recently, they introduced this VAT.
okay.
So that is again between the countries. I mean, between UAE and between the Saudi, and now they have extended to other countries as well. So there are also few countries we don't have taxation. So I'm speaking about those part. Okay. And we have natural application only. Natural application is something that how do we want to uh, do our what do you call the receipt application? Whether do we want to maintain our receipt application? So receipt application is nothing but applying our receipt against the invoices. So whether do we want to allow this or we don't want to allow this. If we disable this option, you can see that allow over application. So over application is something that let's say the invoice amount is 100 and if we wanted to pay maybe receive maybe 150, that we can do it. But generally we will not have it because we will go off the track. That is, if we want to take a reporting out of the receipt and the invoices, we will have some reconciliation issues. So always it is suggested to have a natural application only. So the moment you select this option will be disabled. Okay. And then we have exclude from late charges calculation. So do we want this particular transaction to be excluded from the late charges? So what is late charges? So let's say the amount or the due for the particular invoice is on 10th of January and now it is 15th of January till the customer hasn't paid us. So we will charge the what you call kind of an interest. So that you call the late charges. So for that we will do a specific setup and we will attach it with the customer. So if we wanted to exclude this calculation for the late charges, so when we do or create an invoice with this transaction, if you enable this option, system will not calculate the late charges. Okay. So there will be only few cases where the customer will charge for the late payment. So mostly it will be exclude option. So for now, I'm not touching this part. And no future datas with chronological document sequencing. So future dates with future date, we cannot use the chronological order. So which means document sequencing, we will define it at what do you call the sequencing level. So if we wanted to use at a future date, if we enable this option, system will not allow us to do on the future date document sequencing. Okay.
That is, to my understanding, suppose I am fixing the document sequence number for this financial year 2020-21.
Yeah.
Then I can change it for 2021-22. Some different document sequencing. Correct, no, sir?
Yeah. This will restrict to use. I mean, not to use the future dates basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the example which I given is correct or not,
Yeah.
sir?
Yes. Yes. Correct.
To my understanding. Okay.
Okay. And then we have context value and the regional information. So this is basically what do you call the country specific or localization, where we will capture the additional information. So that is again client specific or the requirement specific. So for now, I'm not using any additional information, and I'm coming to the access to the particular view. So we have created the setup here. So how do we know that how do we let the system know that this transaction will be enabled for this particular business unit? We have enabled at the legal entity level, but still if we wanted to use this, we still have to give the access to the particular BU. So I have given the access to BU, and then I have the receivable account and the revenue account. Okay. So this is mandatory because when we are creating an invoice, so these are the two accounts that will get reflected. And apart from that, if we have taxation involved in it, so we will give the tax account as well. So if we have freight, so that also we can give, where we will allow the freight, and then we will attach the respective accounts here. And then here you can see there are two other accounts. One is unearned revenue and the other is unbilled receivables. So what is unearned revenue and what is unbilled receivable? So unearned revenue is something that we have so we have delivered our goods to the customer, but we are yet to receive it. Okay. So this kind of transactions you can call unearned revenue. So for example, we can take this Netflix. So where Netflix we are paying for 1 year, but whereas if Netflix wants to capture the revenue that it incurred, it will not capture for 1 year as a one entry, but whereas it will split into different revenues. Let's say the amount is 1,000 and it is for maybe 12,000, and the Netflix will capture this as 1,000 for each month. So this we will capture as an unearned revenue, and the end of the period we will knock off this unearned revenue with the revenue. Okay. And similarly, we have unbilled receivables. So unbilled receivable is something where so this we call basically advance or arrear. If it is on arrear, so basically there are two kinds. So you can say both are similar, but whether we are invoicing at before beginning or before delivering the goods or after delivering the goods. Unearned revenue is when we basically generate the revenue and serve it. And unbilled is something we receive it and then maybe we will serve or deliver the goods. So that is the basic difference between the unearned revenue and unbilled receivables. Okay. And then we have auto invoice clearing. Okay. And then we have auto invoice clearing. So auto invoice clearing account will be required when we have the invoice that has been uh, imported from different module or different system or the third party application. If we are receiving it, let's say there is an telecom industry where they have a different application. So okay, let's take this Airtel as an use case. So Airtel basically, if you see, when we are making this particular recharge, so this will be stored in one system, whereas Oracle is different from this particular system. Okay, so this invoice, what we have created as a recharge, should be transported or should be sent to the Oracle in order to get the financial reports built in. So for that, what we will do is we will have a schedule process which will be scheduled for each maybe 2 hour or 5 hours, so that the invoice will be imported. So how system will understand that this is the account that system should consider while creating the invoice. So for that purpose, we will have the auto invoice clearing account. Since we don't have any third party or we cannot test with the third party, I'm not using this account. but I'm just explaining. So why do we need this account, or where will we use this account? Fine. Any doubts, or shall we move?
Yes, sir. Okay.
Okay. Okay. So we are done with the transaction type. So the next setup that we have is transaction source. Okay. So this is like how do we want to create our transaction, or how system wants to import or process the manual transaction. So if you see here, again we have enabled the RDS, and we have attached the legal entity, and we have just given an naming convention for this. And here if you see, this is manual. So with this transaction type, we will not be able to import any transaction from the third party application. So while we are seeing this Airtel use case where we will import the invoices from the core application, that is where the recharges are made. So if those kind of transactions to be imported, we cannot use this manual. Okay. So manual is something that we create as a human effort. We create the transaction inside the receivable application without any automation or anything. Okay. So we have the manual option selected, and we have informed the system on from so and so date this will be active. And here again we have two options, whether to use the automatic transaction numbering, or we can use our own account for the transactions. And here we have a receipt handling for credit. So what is receipt handling for credit? So this is something that if we get a return or something from the customer, so how do we wanted to maintain it? Whether we wanted to handle it on account or refund. So what is the difference between on account and refund? So refund is something we will pay back the customer, and on account is something we will hold this particular amount. If we wanted to, if the particular customer wanted to use this money for the future purpose, customer can use this. A simple example is, maybe you might have used this big basket. In big basket, if you purchase let's say 10 items, so we have built it, and after coming to this, maybe we return maybe 2 items. So big basket will not refund us immediately. So this amount will be stored in wallet. So this we call on account. So whenever we are making the purchase, this will be deducted or used against the purchase, and the remaining amount will be calculated, and we will pay the remaining amount. So this is the difference between on account and refund. Okay. And we have copy document number to transaction number. So if we wanted to copy a particular, I mean this transaction number to the document number, or the credit memo, if we wanted to create, do we want to copy this number? So I'm just clicking no. If we wanted to use, we can use it actually. So then we have the allow duplication transaction number. This is always no, because we don't want to use any duplication number for the audit purpose. And then we have copy transaction information field to credit memo. So in case we wanted to capture the additional information, let's say we wanted to capture even the product information. So we will use this DFF. DFF is something like descriptive flex field, or the additional information that we wanted to capture. So after setting up this flex field, we will enable, or we will give a particular values to the system, and we will use it while doing the transaction. So if we enable this option, this additional information what we are entering in the transaction will be copied to the credit memo that we are creating against this transaction. Okay. So for now, I'm just disabling this option. I don't want to copy this. And then we have reference field default value. So this is again, if we wanted to import the transaction, then maybe we will use. Since this is manual, I'm not using this option. And as I said earlier, I have created the transaction type, and I'm attaching this particular transaction type with the transaction source. So that when I try to query this particular transaction source, system will automatically pick or populate the transaction type. And if you wanted to attach the credit transaction source, so this is for our what do you call the normal invoice. If we have a specific to the credit memo, we can attach it here. So that whenever we have the written, system will automatically process it. Okay. So this is for manual. So I will just show you how it will look like for an imported transaction source as well. Anyway, we will not be able to use it since we don't have third-party system, but still I'll show you how setup needs to be done. So I click imported. So the moment I click imported, all the values will be changed, all the additional information will be added up here. So if you see here, the rest of the things are similar. So I just say, sorry, here we should enable this option because we are importing it. So we wanted system to generate the transaction numbers automatically. And we have seen these options. And then we have the auto invoice options. So let's say we receive 10 lines for an invoice. So against this 10 lines, there are two lines which doesn't have a proper maybe revenue account. So revenue account is missing for this particular line, these two lines. So whether do we want to reject the entire invoices or do we want to create the invoice with the 8 lines which has the valid record? So always it is suggested to have reject invoice so that we can reprocess it again, or else what system will do is that the rest of the two lines will be created as a separate invoice. So that is why always we will use reject invoice. Okay. Then we have grouping rule. So grouping rule is something that how do we want to group this particular invoice. So when we are speaking about the auto invoice, where we have two parts. So one is line ordering and the other is grouping. So line ordering is something how do we want to make the particular sales order into lines. And once we have created this as in lines, how do we want to create or group this as a particular invoice? So that we will mention it here. Okay. So once we have attached the grouping rules, and if we wanted to have a clearing account or the intermediate, so that we can enable it here. And then we have sales credit. So that depends. So if we have sales credit, maybe we can use the allow sales credit. And then we have accounting date in closed period. So if the period is not open, so do we want to adjust or do we want to reject? Again, this should be a validation. So it is always reject. Then we have import information. Import information is something we have sales credit. Sales credit is completely depend on our the sales relevant information. If you see here, it is salesperson, sales credit type, and sales credit amount or person. So it is always suggested to use the IDs. So why do we wanted to use the IDs instead of values? So values will contain either character or it will be numerical or maybe with along with maybe the always numerical or character, whichever values. So this will not be unique value. So if you take the characters or the numbers, it will not be unique values. So we might get validations sometimes. So always it is suggested to have ID. So ID will be always primary key so that it will be unique. Okay. Similarly, we have the customer bill to customer and bill to address, all those things. So it is suggested to have IDs for everything for the purpose of the performance tuning or to avoid the validations. Okay. So here we have bill to customer and we have ship to customer. So there will be few cases where the shipping location will be different from the billing location. So billing will might have happened in maybe the office or the head office, but ship to location might happen at maybe the inventory office or the sub inventory offices. Okay. So most of the cases bill to location will be different from the ship to customer. Okay, then we have the address. Address is something that again is built to what is the address that we are using. Maybe if we have contact, we can use it. Similarly, address and contact. And then we have sold to customer. Sold to customer is something that we have this customer. I mean, mostly this sold to customer will be same. On few cases, if the sold to customer is different from the ordering, then we will mention it. Sold to customer is different from the bill to or ship to customer. So the payment will be made by the sold to customer. Again, here we will use ID. And we have payment method rule. Payment method rule is something that how do we want to pick the payment method. So that again we will use this ID. Okay. Then customer bank account. So why do we need a customer bank account? So customer bank account is something that will applicable for the online transaction like NEFT, RTGS, Google Pay, Paytm, and all those kind of payment transaction. We will need customer bank account to process this. Okay. So again, this we will use as an ID. Then we have invoicing rule. The invoicing rule again, while we are discussing about the unearned revenue and the unbilled receivables, we were speaking about invoice in advance and invoice in arrears. So what is invoice in advance and what is invoice in arrears? So invoice in advance is something that we will bill it and then we will deliver it. And in invoice and arrears is something we will deliver it and we will invoice it. So that is the simple differentiation between both. Okay, so that again we will give it an ID. And then we have accounting flex field. So flex field is nothing but attaching our flex field to derive the date and our what do you call the code combination of the receivables and the revenue account. Okay. And then we have payment term. Payment term, that is what we were saying, whether it is immediate or 30 days net. And then we have the revenue account allocation. So if we wanted to distribute the revenue that we are importing from the third party application, so that we can have as a percentage or the amount. So mostly it will be percent. Then we have the miscellaneous information like transaction type and the memo. So the what is memo line? So memo line is something where we don't have a particular item or the inventory item given for this inventory unit. So if we wanted to use without the inventory item, we will define a standard memo line, and we can use this memo line against this particular line or the transaction. So that we will see when we are creating the invoice. And inventory item that we can give that is understandable, so that we will give ID and unit of measure quantity or whichever the unit of measure we wanted to use. And FOB is freight on board, so that is again understandable. And freight carrier and related document if we have something. Okay. So again, CPQ cloud integration is related to this one. I mean, this involves the technical part of it. So basically for the sales and marketing related modules, we will use this option. Okay. And then we have revenue management cloud service integration. So again, we have a module called revenue management specifically, separately designed for this revenue management. So that if you wanted to integrate with our this module, we can use this. So where we can use the source document type. Okay. So this is for imported. So we have seen the transaction type, transaction source. Now we will see memo line. Memo line is nothing but the standard memo line what we were discussing just now.
Sir, one thing, sir, Arun sir,
Yeah.
in order management, they create invoice, no?
No.
They create
Order
billing.
no. Order management we will create sales order.
Billing, where it gets created.
So billing will be done in AR module, accounts receivable.
See, one thing, sir, see, one customer places the order,
Okay.
okay. Then it gets shipped, delivered. Delivery take place in which this thing? Order management, no? Shipping.
Yeah, shipping will happen in order management.
Okay. Then the billing will happen in
Billing will
accounts
happen
receivable.
in accounts receivable.
See, one thing, small confusion I have.
Yeah.
See, for example, in India, you take, for example,
Okay.
in India, for example, it is a pharmaceutical company
Okay.
wherein head office is in one location. Okay.
Okay.
What they will do, the order will be received in the distribution department. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, they will create a sale order. As per order management, they will create in order management, they create a sale order and
Okay.
also they do delivery. Or they will create a sale order in the distribution department and that sale order will be given to the warehouse people
Yeah.
where they will create a shipment delivery in that. Correct, no, sir?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Then invoice, who will generate in that case?
So after creating this, or
Uh,
maybe before this, if we wanted to maybe ship this particular item, what we will do is based on the
uh,
sales order,
uh,
we will import the sales order, or with
uh,
the reference of the sales order, we will create the invoice in
uh.
accounts receivable module.
Accounts receivable model, who will do it? That warehouse people will generate or who will generate, sir?
No, no, this will be on a respective head offices or this thing where the invoice will be created. So this will not be created by the warehouse admin or the warehouse the log.
Okay. No, no. My question is, when we assign to that role to the warehouse people, they will create invoice? No.
If we assign role,
Mm.
warehouse executive can create the invoice, but practically we will not have the scenario
Uh,
where warehouse people will create the invoice and attach it with it. So it will be different department actually. So
Acha.
the
No,
revenue
no.
will
One example. Sorry to interrupt you. To
yeah,
more give a
please.
clarity. See, you heard a company called GlaxoSmithKline Pharmaceuticals Limited, no?
Okay,
Okay, see, one simple one thing I will tell you. Actually, their head office is in Mumbai. Okay,
okay,
they have a warehouse in Bhiwandi. Okay,
okay,
a mother warehouse.
okay,
Okay, and manufacturing location is in Nasik. Okay,
okay,
so they products get manufactured. That is, medicines get manufactured. Okay,
okay,
okay. Then it will be transferred to Bhiwandi, mother warehouse.
okay.
Okay, from there it will get distributed to CFA locations. They have
Mm,
28 locations across
okay,
India.
okay,
Okay, okay. They will through a delivery, not a stock transfer. They will do it, and they will. Okay, this CFAs, what they will do,
okay,
they will receive the stock. Okay,
okay,
then they will once the distributor places order, they will create a sale order and do shipment, and they will create invoice. Only
okay,
the accounting part that revenue this will be done by the this thing. Automatically it will create back end accounting in entries will get created.
okay,
Then receipt also, they will post receipt whenever they check received, they will post that. Okay, that and all
okay,
they will do it. That is
okay.
why I am asking. In that case, that role will get can be assigned to them or like that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. We don't have any restriction that in Oracle, we don't have any restriction that warehouse executive cannot create this invoice.
Okay, okay,
I'm saying as a standard practice, I have seen people assigned specifically to create this invoice, but warehouse executive role will end up in managing the items. So
okay.
it is
Then
not
who will create?
restrictive. We can assign this role, particular
Ah,
role, I mean the account receivable specialist or the manager to the
okay,
warehouse planner, and warehouse planner can create the invoice. So that is possible.
okay, okay.
So that depends on the business case. So if
Ah, business
business
case.
wants
Okay,
to
okay,
have it, they can have it. There is no restriction.
okay, okay.
Sir, as all these modules are integrated, it automatically, will inform the person who's been assigned in the accounts receivable, right? So then they will create the invoice there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
I mean no, the business case. What he's saying is that we don't have a specific person to create an invoice. So warehouse planner will create this invoice is what he's saying.
Because they want to dispatch, no, that invoice should go to the customer with e-way bill. So depending on another person, it's not difficult, it's very difficult. So what they will do, they
Oh,
will create an invoice, generate an invoice, accordingly e-way bill will they will do it and attach it, and they will dispatch the stock.
no, that's what I'm saying. That depends
Oh,
on the business case. See,
okay,
you if you take R12 again, even there you have the automating the email. Okay,
okay,
so we have
okay,
workflows and this thing. So that is the technical part of it. Since we can,
okay, okay,
I'm just explaining how it will work. So basically,
okay,
we have the request will once we create this particular transaction or the sales order in our what do you call uh, the order management. So basically, system will give an alert to the particular department through this workflow generator that
okay,
so and so order has been created, and we will see those invoices should be created. So that
okay,
is why we have the auto invoice progress and all those things.
okay,
So invoice will be created automatically. And if you wanted to give this particular option, or after creating the invoice, if you wanted to send this copy to particular person, again you can send it.
Sir, one more thing to add on this. See, once a shipment, they create a shipment, automatically invoice will get generated.
Yeah, yes,
Okay, that is you are telling, no? Once
yeah,
the
yes,
shipment takes place, automatically invoice get in the
yeah,
system invoice get generated. Okay, manual
yeah,
invoice not required. Automatically it will get.
yeah.
Okay,
Automatic in the sense we have a concurrent program to create this called an auto invoice. That will
okay,
basically create an invoice. So that is what I was referring to, where we have after creating this invoice, if we wanted to send to a particular maybe warehouse executive, we can have the email thing notified where this copy will be sent to this particular executive and he can process it. So
okay,
this is in R12. So if you see in Fusion, you have the notification already in place.
okay, okay,
So based on the customizing the roles, this particular executive can access and they take the printout of it, and he can attach along with the item and he can send. So that's
okay,
what I'm saying. If business have the resource or already they are practicing that they wanted to have a particular, I mean, this resource will be allocated for this particular process, and maybe this particular warehouse planner will work only on the item related activities. We have the options to enable it. We
okay,
don't have this, but business
okay,
wants to have only for a specific resource. We wanted to attach both the AR functionalities and the order management functionalities. We can enable, but
oh, okay,
as a standard practice, we will not use it because those are two different departments.
okay, okay, okay.
Yeah, so that is what I was trying to say, where the department is different. When the department is different, we will have to give the different menus or the offerings to the respective resources.
Okay, okay,
Okay, so
okay, okay, okay. Because
Yeah.
why I'm see I since I worked in pharmaceutical where
Yeah.
SAP is there. Okay. That's why actually I want to have a clarity on that. Okay.
Yeah, understood. So basically, that depends on the business scenario. So we
Okay.
don't have any restrictions to have only for what do you call only for this particular thing should be divided into two parts and this thing. We don't have any such restriction. We
Okay.
can have it, but as
Okay.
a business decision, we
Okay.
will not have this option to have
Okay.
both AR and order management handled by one resource.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Any other doubt?
No, sir. No. And one more thing, sir.
Yeah,
Before going this,
yeah,
see, if, suppose one scenario wherein what they will tell is, suppose if you pay within before the due date. Suppose if the customer due date is 20th.
yeah.
Okay.
10% discount, something like that.
Suppose if you before the due date, if you pay certain discount is applicable for you like that.
Yeah,
That also option is there, no sir?
yeah, yes. So if you remember our payable session, so we
Okay.
were saying I mean three parts for payment term. So for payment term, we can okay. So maybe let me try
Okay.
to get it. I'll show that.
Sir, am I deviating the class?
No, not
Okay.
No,
deviation.
sir, it's
No,
helpful
not
actually.
deviation. No, you are going in a flow. Am I deviating the flow?
No, alignation. Okay. So if you see here, we can define a payment term where attaching our RDS, and you can see here the discount basis. So how do we want to give the discount? So do we want to apply this particular discount at maybe total invoice or only lines or lines along with the tax and freight? How do we want to apply? So this
Okay.
option we can do it. Okay. And apart from that, we have the receipt application. So this is nothing but our discount will be applied on which date basis. So whether it is on the receipt application date or receipt date or deposit date. So we say receipt application date. Okay. So apart from that, so what we have is that the payment schedule. So we say this is 100 and 30 days is the limit. Okay. And here we say we are giving the discount of 2% if it is paid on 20 days.
Okay.
So if we pay below this days, so this again depends on the business case. So if they have the discounts to be given on a particular given day, then maybe we will give the actual days it here and we will give the days to get the discounted here. So if we want to add additional row, that is on the second level or third level, always we can add.
We can have variable discounts, sir.
Yeah, I mean,
Slab.
yeah, yes, we can have different slabs for this.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay. Clear.
Okay. So what is standard memo line, and why do we need basically the memo line? So we have the what do you call the receivable module to create the transaction. So how do we create the transaction? So we will create the transaction based on the item. So why do we create based on the item or the service? Okay. So why do we create this? So we will create a sales order. So against this sales order, we will create a shipment, and upon the shipment, we will create the invoice. Okay. So when we create a sales order, we will create always with the item. So that item will be interfaced with our receivable module, and we will create the invoice against it. So there will be a few cases where we will create non-inventory items. So how do we create it? So that is where we have the standard memo line where we can create the AR invoices without having the items. Okay. So when we are saying without having the items, so how does the system understands that this is the account code combinations that I have to generate for this particular non-inventory item line. So this is how system understands. We have given the business unit, and we have the revenue account. So basically the receivable account will be picked up from the transaction type that we have defined it there. And apart from that, we are giving the revenue. Okay. So for example, I have given leased rent revenue. So if you wanted to have it, then maybe we can have. Because leased rent revenue, and then we cannot capture this as an item. Okay. So what we have done is we have created a standard memo line and we have created it. So here if you see, again we will have invoice in advance or arrears.
This is for non-inventory items, sir.
Yeah, non-inventory item.
Okay. Okay.
Okay. So this is optional step. I mean, having the standard memo line is always optional. So this is not a mandatory one. Okay. And then we have receivable activities. So what is receivable activities? So receivable activity is something that if we wanted to have any sort of adjustment, or maybe if we wanted to capture the refund, for everything we will have to create a receivable activity. So we will see what are the list we have to create the receivable activity. Okay. So if you see, we have our adjustment, and if you wanted to capture the bank error, we have the activity to be created, and we have the bills receivable refund recovery. So bills receivable we were seeing while we are seeing the system options that is an payment instrument that we will use. So in case we have fund recovery for that bills receivable, we can use this. And we have credit card chargeback and refund for everything. I mean, earned discount or unearned discount, and we have late charges and miscellaneous cash. So where do we use miscellaneous cash? So if we are creating a receipt application, so basically we have two kind of transaction. One is standard and the other one is miscellaneous cash. So when we match this particular receipt with the invoice and other things, so that we call as a standard receipt application. So we don't have any invoice or we don't have anything to apply with it. So what we can do is we can simply create an miscellaneous cash transaction and we can record the revenue. Okay. Similarly, we have for payment, prepayment, and receipt write-off. Write-off we were seeing while we were seeing the initial system option setups. Similarly, refund and short-term debts if we want to use it. And then we have unearned discounts. So for everything, we should create this. So as a default setup, I mean to enable us to give or complete the setup, we will need earned discount and unearned discount. So let me show what we have created. Okay. So I have created just a few receivable activities. So here if you see unearned discount. So this is mandatory. So I have created one unearned discount. So let me show you what I have did. Okay. So we have just selected the business unit to give the access. And then we have just given a name for it. And we have selected activity type as an earned discount. So this is important. So for what activity we are creating this receivable activity. Okay. So we have created it. And then here we have two options, either to select based on the activity for the GL code, or if we want to select the revenue on the invoice, that we can select, or if we want to select based on the tax rate code, that we can select. But as a standard practice we are using activity GL account. Okay, so here we have selected a particular account. So we have selected and discount here, and then we have the tax rate code source. So if there will be few countries where it will be taxed for each transaction or each activity, the adjustments or the end discount, whichever we are making. So if we have maybe the taxation part, so that we will have to give the respective tax rate code that we will create in Fusion tax application. So since we don't want to use this taxation part, I'm just clicking none. Okay. So that's it. We have saved this transaction. So this is what we call the receivable activity. So receivable activity should be created for the multiple purpose, like the adjustments and the miscellaneous cash and the write-offs and all those things. So we have created a few cases. Okay, so we have created the earned discount and unearned discounts. And now let's create a bank. Bank, we have seen how to create bank while we are creating the payable module. So we will just see once again. So I have created it already.
Sir, in that you just disabled the taxation part. No? I mean, you said that you'll be explaining that in the taxation module. So
Mm.
once you enable all that, will all these reflect in the receivables and payables and all that?
Yeah,
The
yes,
the
it will reflect.
okay, okay, as it's integrated with everything.
Yeah,
Fine. Okay, okay, sir. Thank you.
yeah. Okay. So I'll just show what we created last week, basically. So this is the bank that we created last week. That is, we selected the country and we selected, I mean, we created the bank. So if you want to add the address and if you want to add the contact details, so that we can click edit and we can add the details. And against this bank, we will have the branch. So we can just query our bank and we can click view branches. Okay. So if we have maybe multiple branches for this bank, we can create it. Maybe if we have multiple accounts have it with this bank, we can attach it here. So again, we have just selected the bank that we have created and we have given the branch name and we have the routing number. So routing number is
Routing number
specific to
is
US.
Swift Swift code like that, sir.
Yeah, this is specific to US basically. We don't
Okay,
have it for India cases.
okay.
Yeah. And apart from that, all those things are EFT and EDI is like are how do we connect with our bank for in case of electronic transfers. Okay. So since we can't touch the electronic transfers and all, we didn't touch this part. And similar to bank, if you want to give address and contacts, we can edit and we can give it here. And then we have the accounts. We go to manage bank accounts. Okay. So we have selected the bank, and we have given the account name, and we have given the account number. So all are just dummy, but still for understanding purpose, we have just given this, and we have given the access to particular LE. Okay. And here, if you see, we have enabled it for payables and receivables. Okay. So this is one kind of an application level access. And then we have the cash and cash clearing. So why do we need both the cash and cash clearing is that since this involves the bank, so that is third party. So we will need the clearing account so that it will help us in terms of the reconciliation between our cash book and bank book. Okay, so this is the purpose of having the cash clearing. So when we make the payment or receive the amount from the customer, the cash clearing account will hit there. So when we get the actual cash, the cash account will reflect there. Then we have the additional information. So these things, if you want to maintain, then we can have it. So if you are making maybe the foreign currency transactions, then we will have to enable this multi-currency account. Okay. And then we have the netting account. So netting account is something that if we have the same customer defined or payables and receivables, where we can use this netting account where the excess amount can be paid out of it. So that is what we call the netting account. Okay. Then we have the payment document. So the payment document is nothing but how do we want to generate our the payment document numbers and all those things. And if this is check based this thing, always we can define the check. So here we can make it. Maybe I will just show you once. So I go here, I edit this, I can add this, and I can give the start number and end number. So this should be based on the R check number, where we will have the start number and end number. Okay. So this is our payment document. So we have created this, and then we have the controls. So control is for the bank reconciliation, or how do we maintain our the reconciliation, either it is automatic or the manual. Okay. So if you see here, if you wanted to give the tolerance and if you want to give the exchange rate type, this we can give it here. So let's handle it while we are creating the receipt in the application. Then we have security. Security is something where if you wanted to use this for only a particular role or the user, that we can enable it here. So I don't want to restrict at the user or role level. I just give as it is. I'm not enabling this option. Okay. Then we have business unit access. So this is mandatory. Unless we give this business unit access, we will not be able to use this for the transaction or the invoice, either in payable or receivable. Okay, so this is what all about the bank account. So we have created the bank account. So the next step is to create the receipt class or the receipt method.
So where was the access to, you gave the access to business unit, no, when you were
Yeah.
setting up the, but where was the option to do that, sir? I mean,
To give access to the business
yeah,
unit.
yes, sir.
Yeah, just a minute.
Yeah,
So this is what business unit access.
yeah.
Okay. So I click edit. So I'll just click add
Okay, okay.
and I will give the relevant business unit. Since we have already given the access for it,
Okay,
we will not
okay,
be
sir.
able to select. So if we have, we can
Okay.
just
Mm.
get it from here.
Okay, sir. Got it, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So the next step is to create receipt class or receipt method. Let me try to create, and I'll give new one. So I'll try to explain. So we will, so basically what is reset class and what is reset method? So reset method will tell the system that what kind of method we are using to capture our reset application. So what is reset class? So reset class will basically define that how do we want to create our reset and how do we want to manage our remittance process and all those things, and how does the system recognize that this is cleared from the backend. Okay. So this is all about the reset class and reset method. So now let's see how to define the reset class and the reset method. So I say swrec1. So what is this creation method? So this creation method means how do we want to create the reset? So whether reset should to be created manually or automatically or based on the bills receivable or bills receivable remittance. Okay. So automatic is something that where we receive the files and even the bills receivables and the bills receivable remittance. We receive files from the third party application and then we will process it, and based on the automatic rule or the auto rule, we will create the reset application. Then based on the rule, reset are also applied to the what do you call the invoice. So we don't have this third party application. So I'm just clicking manual, and then we have different options here. So what is basically the no remittance and what is standard, what is factor. Okay. So no remittance. So what is no remittance? So no remittance is something that we select directly. So when do we use this no remittance? So let's say we have a business of maybe the supermarket. So in supermarket, sales cannot be made through banking system and these things. There will be only few cases where we will use this maybe card and all those things. So for that we can use the standard, but there are few cases where we will use the cash transaction. So for cash, we don't have any third party involved in it. So we don't need the factoring and the standards. So what we will do is we will say no remittance. We don't need any remittance, and directly. Directly means it will be cleared automatically. The moment we select the receipt, this will be saved automatically. Okay. So the next method what we have is standard. So what is standard? So the moment I click standard, we have two options. One is by matching or by automatic clearing. So what is the difference between both? Okay. So matching is something that if I give matching, I should match this particular receipt with my bank statement. So the moment I clear this at the bank statement level, the transaction or the receipt status will be changed to clear automatically. Okay. So this is one option. What is the other option? By automatic clearing. So what is automatic clearing? So we don't have any statements that is coming in from the bank, or maybe we haven't implemented the CMS or the cash management module full-fledged. So what we can do is we can have the automatic clearing. So what is automatic clearing is that we have a concurrent program or the scheduled process. So where this will run and this will clear the receipts automatically. So based on the information or the inputs we get from the bank, we will run this particular program, or if we wanted to schedule it, we can schedule it so that the particular transaction will be cleared automatically. So always it will be suggested to have by matching. Okay. So then we have the receipt method. So receipt method is nothing but we are just using the method for the receipt. Okay. So here we have another option, debit memo inherent receipt number. So let's say we have created the receipt. Now, if we wanted to refund this amount, or if we wanted to cancel this particular receipt, so how do we wanted to manage it? So whether we wanted to maintain this receipt number along with the debit memo numbering system. If we So there are two options in receipt application. So either we can use the standard reversal or the debit memo reversal. So debit memo reversal will create a debit memo in the transaction so that the customer due will be knocked off. Okay. So this is the difference. So while creating the debit memo, if we wanted to have the receipt number inherent with the debit memo, that we can enable it here. So we will just give it as an optional, and we will add the remittance bank details. So since we are saying the remittance method as a standard, so we should give the relevant bank details to this. So I'm just giving the bank details of maybe the SW what we have. Okay. So here we have minimum receipt amount. So we can set up the minimum amount to the transaction. So this is again optional. So I say just one. So clearing days. If you want to set clearing days, then that we can set up it here. So we have risk elimination days. So risk elimination days is something that where we have the factoring. So if you see this from the list what we saw earlier, so we have standard, we have factoring. So if we are using this factoring in this case, so where we have the risk elimination factors and all those come. So why do we have this risk elimination? So factoring is something that the customer hasn't given me the entire amount, what is outstanding or what is yet to be paid. So with this receipt or the invoice, what I have it in my hand, I'll go to the bank and I'll get a part of amount from the bank. Okay. So this we call factoring. So when customer pays that, then bank will get knocked off. So this is not applicable for all the cases. Only few cases where bank will allow for a privileged customer. So unless we have the requirement from the customer, we will not set up this factoring. So risk elimination days and all those things comes in when we have the factoring setup. So when we have set up this what do you call factoring, we have two options. So one is defining the risk elimination, and the other is defining the short-term debt account. Okay, if you see here, this factoring is disabled. The reason being is that we have selected the standard. So if we have selected the factoring, we will see this. Okay, so these are
So
the
can you give
options.
an example, sir, for the factoring, like with
Okay,
the amount and everything? Yeah.
okay. So let's take an case where let's take mm, maybe Reliance Industries. Let's take Reliance Gas and Pipeline. So where I have created the invoicing to a particular client in Middle East, and I have sold few amount, and the due is on maybe let's take 10th of August. So today is 1st of August. So I don't have cash flow in my business. So I wanted this immediately. So what I will do, I'll take this invoice, what I have sent to my customer. So the banks are same. The bank what I use to transfer the amount or receive the amount is same always. So what I'll do, I'll take this invoice to the bank and I'll submit this to the bank saying that so and so amount will be received on so and so date on 10th of August. But between that, I want to submit this invoice to you and get the amount out of it so that you can get maybe at the later time or on the 10th of August. Okay. So this is given on the basis of trust. So this is
So this
not
is
given.
basically you're taking credit of how much ever
Yes.
amount from the
Yes.
bank. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
That is
It's
why
form
we.
of, sir, it's form of bill discounting.
So this is why we have short-term debt.
Okay.
So the moment we encash this with our invoice or the receipt, so basically we will have this short-term debt created. So once we clear this, so bank has recognized it, then this will be knocked off with this particular entry from this cash clearing to cash. Okay. So
Okay.
until then, this will have only the effect of short-term debt. So this is kind of taking kind of an credit from the bank by submitting our bills.
It's
I see.
a way of bill discounting, sir, factoring.
Not exactly bill discounting. So bills discounting is different. So this is like submitting our bills and getting this. We can say, but not exactly. Like we can match with that. Like kind of and similar, but
Bank
not.
will take some amount now, sir. In that they
Yeah,
will okay,
yeah.
some form of commission they will take, no?
No, commission it will be there always.
Okay, okay,
So when we have the bank transaction,
okay, okay,
always we will have commission part involved in it. But
okay,
this is different. This is based on only the trust of the particular customer. Because if
okay,
you see here, it is not just thousands or lakhs of money. Always
okay,
it will be more than lakhs, or maybe in some cases in crores.
okay.
Okay, so it is based on trust factor. Okay, so that is what. So basically, while we are dealing with the factoring, so we will submit the bills and we will get the amount based on the trust. So once the customer clears that, banks will recognize that. So this is what about factoring. So if we have enabled this factoring, we will see the short-term debts and the risk elimination and all those things. So if you see this unearned discount and earned discount, so this is what we created in receivable activities. Okay. So this is all about our reset class and reset method. So the next setup is to create a reset source. Let me show this. So this is what we call reset source. So basically, why do we need a reset source? Is that how do we create our reset? So this is kind of the setup what we did for the transaction. Similarly, we will create it for reset. So here we have two kinds of creating the reset. After attaching the view, we will select whether it is manual or automatic. So if it is manual, we will create a reset class what we created earlier. Okay. So let me create one. I select manual and I'm just giving the one which we created.
So the standard practice is to enable manual, is it, for receipt sources and as well as for the transaction
Yeah,
types
it
also?
is
Okay.
mostly manual. There are very few cases that we will have automatic reset creation. So as a standard practice, it is manual.
Okay.
And then we have the batch numbering. So there are two parts of it. So one is batch and the other one is the individual receipt. So what we are seeing it here is for the batch numbering, not for the individual. So for the batch, maybe if you want to set up as an automatic, we can give the number. So for starting from one, this will start generating. Okay. So we have created this option. Let's save and close. So similarly, for automatic, if you wanted to create, we will give the reset class, reset method, and this one, and based on the available setup. So the system will create the automatic reset. Okay, so that is the only difference here. So we have created the manual. I mean the reset class and reset source setup is done. So the next setup is to create or assign the role to the user. So I have already assigned these two roles, account receivable specialist and account receivable manager. So the next step, so we have seen how to assign this role in security console. We will assign to user. So we saw in previous two sessions. So I'll just navigate here and I just show it once. Security console. So on the security console on the left side of the page, I click user. So from here, I search the user. So this is chn.chn. So I search for this. I'll click this and I'll edit this and add the roles if I wanted to add. Since I have already added the two roles, so I'm not adding to it. Okay. So I'm just after adding the roles, we will click save and close. Since we haven't made any changes, this has been disabled. So I will just click cancel. Okay. So the roles are assigned. So the next period, I mean, the next step is to open the period. So I think period should be open. Let's verify this as well. Okay, so this is in future enterable period. So while seeing the GL module, we saw what is future enterable period. So it is nothing but just we can create the accounting entry, but will not be able to post the entries. So that is what we saw as a future enterable period. So since we are on the 1st of August, it is future enterable. So we will have to open the period. So let's open the open period for both GL and the AR, since we will be posting few transactions to GL as well. Okay. So we have opened the periods. So now let's create customer. So how do we create customer? So since we have added the roles to the user, so we should be able to see our receivables here in the tiles in the dashboard. So I'll click billing, and on the sidebar we'll click create customer. So what we will do, we will give the name of the customer, and if you see account number will be generated automatically, and here we have the account type. If you want to select whether it is an internal or external, you can select. And here we have the customer class. Customer class is something that if you want to give specific classification to it, we can give. And here we have account address set. So this is what I was saying. We can use the common reference data set, but when we define it in the receivable module, we will have some sort of restriction. So if you see it here, we will not be able to find the common reference data set. If you see from A, directly it will go to D. So which means we cannot use common reference set here for the customer. So we will need our own reference data set. So that is why while we are implementing itself, we will have to define our own reference set in order to have sort of security. Okay. So after that, what we will do, we will create the address. Address is nothing but our site. So we will give the site name and we will give the address of the site, and we will add the address purpose. So if you see the address purpose, we will have two things as a mandate. One is build to and the other is ship to. Apart from that, if you want to add the additional inputs that is delivered to or maybe sold to, and statements to whom we have to send the statement and all those things we can add. So as the mandatory, we will select ship to and bill to. Okay. So let me take the customer what we have created. So I'll just go here. I'll go manage customer. Okay, so this is the customer that we have created, and if you see here, we have created the site. So what we saw is still this one, build to ship to. So as a mandatory step, we have assigned this build to and ship to. So once we create this option, we will have to give the access to our business unit. So unless we give the access to the business unit, we will not be able to access this. So what we have given is that we have given business unit. So if you note down here, we have the account codes given here at the customer level also. So how does this work? So how does system derive the account codes that should be picked when we are creating the transaction? So there are three levels where we can give the accounts that needs to be picked up while creating the transaction. So we can give at the transaction type that what we are creating, or if you want to use it at the customer level, maybe for few customers, we will have different revenue to be generated. So for those purpose, we have to give at the customer site level. So that is at this level, we will have to give the receivables, revenue, and the relevant account details. Okay.
Excuse
The
me,
other
sir.
one,
Sir, excuse me.
yeah, yes,
Sir, you are telling no the customer.
yeah.
If he is a domestic customer and if he is a export customer,
Mm.
then we can assign the revenue as a domestic this thing and export like that. Two revenues we can separately we can keep. No,
No, no, it's not domestic or I mean revenue
no,
codes
no.
will not.
See, my say my this thing to go to no. Okay, okay, okay. Revenue is one. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
revenue is one, so that is what
One. Okay,
I
okay,
was trying to say. So basically, we will classify the customer as a domestic or international. That we can do. So if
okay,
you
okay,
see
okay,
here,
okay, okay.
we have the classification. Okay, on top. So here we can classify. We can add
Okay.
additional details as well, and we can say whether this is an domestic or this is an
Overseas, other international. Okay.
yeah, that we can define it. Okay, so we will give the relevance accounts and we can manage it. So how do we automate this one? So we have an option called auto accounting. So what is auto accounting? So auto accounting is something when we are importing the transaction from different modules. So that is when the auto accounting becomes mandatory because system will not understand which account I should pick. So in order to make system understand that this is the account that system should take, what we will do, so this will be applicable when we are doing this, what we call the invoice that will be created from third party application. Okay, so we have created the customer. So let me show how this auto accounting works as well, so that we will have even more better understanding when we work in real-time project on different applications. So let me take our project. Okay. So this is the setup that we have to do if we wanted to have, I mean, if we are importing the transaction from our third party and all those things. If we wanted to automate this process, we can do it from here. So what we will do is we will select our business unit. Okay, I think there are some access issues. So I'll confirm on this part.
Okay.
So there is some technical issue with this auto accounting definition. Okay. Okay, I'll
Okay.
communicate on this part. Okay. So we have seen till the customer creation. So what we will do now is that we will try to create a transaction. So the navigation to create a transaction is we will navigate to the home page and we will click create transaction. So I go receivables, I go to billing, and from billing I click sidebar and I click create transaction. I think we haven't given access to this user. Let's give the access. So let me take the username and let me get the roles and I'm assigning the business unit. Let me attach the specialist role as well. So we have created. So let's verify this. Okay. So we have assigned the roles. Okay, there is some access issue, I think. So maybe we will wind up today. Tomorrow we will see. Maybe I plan for fixed asset tomorrow. So along with that, we can complete the AR part as well.
Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay,
Fine.
sir. Okay, sir. Yeah. Tomorrow, what, 10 o'clock, sir? Same time?
Yeah, same time. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
A good day, sir.
Thank you.